I was raped, beaten, and watched my mother almost bleed to death after a suicide attempt. And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. Trauma, it's not something to hide. It's not something to erase. It is not a shame. It's a battle honor, and I'm proud of every single medal that I have ever earned in my life. Stick around, and I'm going to share scientifically backed ways you can overcome your wounds of the soul. But first, why should you listen to me in the first place? The following has a trigger warning. The following story is not peachy or PG. There was blood all over the wall, splattered on like a sprinkler. My biological mother had just slashed her wrists. Blood poured down her arms as she clung desperately to my 6-month-old brother, his tiny body smeared in her blood crimson. I was just 11, and for weeks now I had been hiding knives. It wasn't the first time she had tried to kill herself. Almost every time the ministry released me back to her care, my biological mother found some way to always mess it up. I was in and out of 14 homes, went to over 10 different schools. I faced all sorts of hardships. When I was 7, I would sometimes be left alone for a week or more. I had to make my own lunch, I had to get myself ready, get myself to school, and somehow, some way, hide from the rest of the world that I was a 7-year-old boy living by myself. Then finally she would come back from her drug binge, barely able to speak after all the crack that she had smoked. I would skip school to try and take care of her, while just being relieved that she was alive. I was terrified back then. This was during the time of Robert Pickton, and I just couldn't shake the fear that one day she'd just never come home. That she would end up chopped up and fed to pigs. On this particular day that she slashed her wrist, she came back from a week of selling drugs and prostituting in the downtown east side. Many more bad things would happen. But you know what? Years later, I met one of my uncles. Someone who had ended generations of trauma for the most part in our family. The other members, my aunts, my uncles, they all continued on the same path. They continued on with the addiction and the severe mental health problems. One even overdosed and died. One night, under the lights of the Lionsgate Bridge, I asked him, what did he think about being raped, being abused, all the bad things that happened? His answer was cold, brutal, and unforgettable. Write a letter, talk about what you want, throw in the trash, then move on. Nobody gives a fuck. Harsh, but was he wrong? My uncle had dreams to achieve. He had a family to provide for. The bad things that had happened to him, it just really wasn't on his priority list. He had a mission, a why, a reason to live beyond his nose. His life was going to be about breaking that chain of trauma, ending the generations of the bad things that happened in our family. My uncle was very giving. He worked in soup kitchens, no pay. His dinner table was never empty, always full of new faces, and he even took me under his wing. He didn't hold back. He said harsh things, but these harsh things, they made me better. Profitable words, every single one of them. He passed away at 50 after a long battle with cancer. Through the pain with the tumors ravaging his body, he still built, he still fixed things around the house. His strength in the hardest of times, hardest of moments, was something that I'll never forget. Because my uncle clicked into something really special early on. There's no point in holding on in the pain of the past. At some point, you have to let it go. Drop the label, drop the act, throw in the trash. You gotta move on. Want to talk trauma? The story that I had told you before is just the beginning. I didn't even mention being raped at knife point by other boys. Or being touched by adults that were supposed to take care of me. The list could go on. But here's why I bring it up. Too many people are wearing trauma like a badge of excuse. A reason to explain and blame for their lack of success or inability to move beyond the past and problems as a reason to feel special because they've been deprived and been made incapable. It becomes narcissism disguised as victimhood. These same people would hate it if I said, so what? Shit happens, get over it. But hear me out. I got what I call my asshole brain. The side of me that tells it straight, no sugarcoating. The part of me that scores high on tests that show that I care more about truth than feelings. I wonder why. And here's the truth. We keep traumatizing ourselves. Every time we carry that victim label, every time we use that as an identity. Life throws curveballs, and it can break you if you let it. Do you quit? Or do you embrace? Some quit, they check out completely, and they take the long nap. I've been there. I've had family members attempted to take their life. I have even once thought about it and tried it. So when I say this, it's not coming from a place of judgment. It's coming from pain, from survival, from my experience. So this video, this is for the ones that have not quit. The ones who are stuck but are still here. The ones who want to choose a better path, who want to move towards a better future. This is about the people that embrace. The people who face their pain, hold it, and then let it go. The ones who realize that life isn't about avoiding hardship, but learning to live despite it. It's about perspective. It's about productivity. What it's about is creating the best possible world for yourself. Not by denying what happened, not by forgetting, but by refusing to let it define you. And guess what? Science backs this up. Early childhood trauma, losing a parent, or facing physical abuse, it leaves deep scars. It often leads to depression and creates impulsive behaviors and much more. Ruth Lay, in A Genealogy of Trauma, argues that the most crippling symptom of trauma is the loss of autonomy and the feeling of sovereignty. Some break, others bend and rebuild. Another study shows that therapy like cognitive behavior therapy helps people overcome trauma. So here's the question. Is it trauma itself that causes addiction and mental health struggles? Or is it the loss of tools in our society to help us cope? Gabor Mate links addiction to trauma. That's not groundbreaking. Humanity has lived with trauma, arguably a lot more in the past. Maybe the real issue is how we decide to handle it. I see it in millennials and Gen Z. They're wrapped in bubble wrap. In foster care, I saw staff tiptoeing around trauma, as if mentioning it might make it worse. Trauma became taboo, something to avoid, something to repress. But repression, it often does more harm. There's bad repression, ignoring what happened. You know what's better? Naming it, reframing it, and just throwing it in the trash. Even better, integration. Turn it into a part of your story. Not the villain, but the lesson. Use it for good. I wrote an article once titled, How Being Raped Made Me Stronger. This is an example of how you can integrate, because true intelligence is adaptability. It's survival. It's looking at the cards life dealt you and playing them to win. My uncle, he did just that. He dreamed of being a chef, building a family, and chasing more important things. For him, trauma wasn't a prison. It was a challenge to overcome. You see, the Greeks understood trauma as a wound of the soul, not the body. That is powerful because wounds can heal. They don't have to touch you in ways that just never let go unless you let it take over. So here's how you overcome trauma. Just reframe it. My soul was not raped. Only the flesh that I inhabit was. It does not define me. That's how I choose to see it. Trauma doesn't get to define me, not in a way that breaks me, not in a way that makes me a victim forever. Instead, I decide to let it make me something else. Invisible, impervious, invincible to whatever life decides to throw at me next. Because I refuse to let the worst moments of my life define my future. I love my trauma. It's not that I love what happened, but that I've chosen to embrace it, to make it part of me in a way that empowers rather than defines me. To own it, because what other choice do I have? When life throws its worst at us, we often face overwhelming weight of the 3 Ps. Number 1, pervasiveness. We convince ourselves that this pain infiltrates every corner of our lives. Our work, our families, our friendships, and even our community. It feels like the shadow of what happened follows us everywhere. But what if we choose a different perspective? What if we stop letting that one event eclipse everything else? What if we recognize that bad moments don't have to darken the entire sky? Number 2, permanence. We label it as trauma, acknowledging its lasting mark, and yet we act as if it will dominate forever. But permanence is a lie, we tell ourselves. We have the power to reframe it, to process it. And like my uncle, who wrote his pain in a letter and threw it away, to also let it go. Instead of calling it trauma, why not call it a challenge we overcame? A scar, yes, but proof we are healed. Number 3, personalization. We take it all on ourselves, believing we're somehow to blame for everything that happened. That we could have stopped it, that it was our fault. But this is where self-compassion must step in. What would your best friend say to you in those dark moments? Likely something like, it's not your fault. Me, I remind myself of a truth. What doesn't break you, it's just gonna make you stronger. When I faced trauma, we stand at a crossroad. We have choices to make. Viktor Frankl in A Man's Search for Meaning taught us that between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space lies our freedom to choose. Too often people today choose to re-traumatize themselves, clinging to negative beliefs, negative labels, revisiting their pain in unproductive ways. We fear breaking. We avoid stepping into the dark woods of our past, not realizing those woods are exactly where our strength are born. I see 3 paths we can take when we're faced with hardship, with trauma. Number 1, opt out of life. I can't handle this anymore. Number 2, embrace negativity. This defines me and I'll let it control me. And number 3, embrace positivity. This happened, I'll own it, and I'll let it make me stronger. For me, I choose the 3rd path. I love my trauma because I've embraced it. I've made it a cornerstone of my resilience. It's almost as if God gave me a chance to become stronger, to be tested, because fire tempers steel and trauma tempers the soul. Remember the old ways of learning to swim, being tossed into the deep end? It was terrifying, but we discovered our natural instincts. I call this the stress vaccine. We need the right dose of adversity to inoculate ourselves against the greater challenges that life's going to throw at us. It gives meaning to my suffering. Instead of asking why me, I choose to believe my challenges are tests, forging me into something greater. When I think resilience, I look to examples like Jewish culture, where the belief in being God's chosen people has created profound strength through centuries of hardship. Finding meaning transforms suffering. It made me smarter. Survival taught me adaptation, resourcefulness, and grit. Yes, it sucked, but I'm grateful for the skills it forced me to develop. Today, as a manager and sales professional, I can trace my success back to the lessons that I was born with that were forged in what others might call trauma. I don't believe healing always requires therapy or medication. Those can be valuable tools, but at its core, recovery is about a change of perspective. Cognitive behavioral therapy has shown incredible results for trauma and depression, but even CBT is rooted in ancient philosophy. The truth is, the power to heal lies all within us. So no, I don't love what happened, but I love who I've become because of it. I've integrated my trauma, and it's shaped me into someone stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever comes next. And I learned that from Stoicism, which was born out of hardship. Zeno of Citium, a merchant, had his fleet of ships sink. Stranded in a foreign land, he had no choice but to choose how to respond. Many people after the 1929 stock market crash lost everything, and they chose despair. Some even decided to take their own lives. Stoicism teaches us to choose differently. Here's what I've learned from it. Number 1, amor fati, love your fate. It's my mantra for embracing trauma. Whatever happened, happened. So what? Get over it. Not just get over it, just love it. Find meaning in it. It's yours to own. Number 2, a view from above. Step back. Look at the world from a higher perspective. Be objective. What would your best friend say? What would God say? See that others have suffered just like you. Find strength in their stories. Focus on those who've turned their pain into power. And number 3, the dichotomy of control. Focus on what you can control. The more you do, the more power you have. Focus on what you can't control, and you just lose power. Epictetus, a Stoic slave, he lived this. He proved that even in chains, you can choose your response. Freedom starts from within. And the reality is, for slaves, only 2% of them escaped in the U.S. But for those who did, they saw their own power, even in the worst of circumstances. I also believe that religion is beneficial. Some say trauma is proof that God doesn't exist. I disagree. Trauma shows us that God gave us free will. The very fact that we can choose how to respond to our pain proves it. Studies show that conservatives who are more likely to be religious also believe in free will more strongly than liberals. Irony, right? God gave us free will. It's our power to choose whether to see trauma as something that defines us or something that's going to refine us. Can you ever truly control yourself if you don't believe you have the power to? Mental health and addiction aren't just about trauma. They're about sovereignty. It's about how we view ourselves, how we choose to integrate challenges. For me, it's simple. I love my trauma. This mindset forces me to do the work, find the positive outcomes, the negatives, and just move forward. So, yes, to all the trauma victims out there, get over it, move on. Not because I'm harsh, but because you need tough love. You need to love the hard things in life. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow. My name is Ivory. If you like this content, hit like, hit subscribe. Thank you very much.